Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG Build Guide Edition. Today I'm ready to drop on you my refreshed Upheaval Barbarian for Diablo 4. And I'm going on record right now at time of recording. This is my favorite build I have ever played in the game. Obviously that is likely going to change as the season goes on, but it is so much fun and it's an absolute powerhouse. As always, I will cover every single facet of the build. Everything is timestamped in the description below if you need to bounce around. Let's not waste any time and jump right into this. All right, starting off with some gameplay. Right now I am in a Nightmare Dungeon tier 78. So this is Endgame. These enemies are level 132. Skills I'm using for this build is Bash. This is going to be our generator. We are using Upheaval as obviously our main damage dealer, Triple Shout, and Iron Maelstrom. Now with Bash, every time you attack 4 times and crit, it is going to guarantee an Overpower for this build. And that is the big update for this season, is we are now in Overpower. And as you can see, I mean, look at these enemies. We are disintegrating them. These are 132s. And this is pretty late game. I think the vampiric powers are certainly helping a lot. There's a couple 10 millions in there. So far, the largest I've seen hit for is 28 million for this build. So far, so good. Pretty simple. Bash to get your resource up, and then you Upheaval. Shouts are going to give you Fortify, damage reduction, and damage. Iron Maelstrom is our ultimate, helps us clear rooms, and if you could time Iron Maelstrom to Overpower, it does serious damage as well. Man, we're just walking through this 78. I'm trying to see if my life is moving at all. I'm going on record and saying this is my favorite D4 build so far. Just having so much fun being a powerhouse and playing with the community and over stream. Boss fight, Nightmare Dungeon, tier 75. And as you can see on the right, no deaths. Come on. Come on. Let's get that Overpower in. Oh! Did you see that? Of course you saw it. All right. Oh, he's in a horrible spot. And you are dead. Nightmare Dungeon, tier 75, no deaths, only getting stronger. Let me show you how to recreate this build. So now let's check out the skills for our Upheaval Barbarian. For the generator, you do want to use Bash. This is going to give you stun, and every 4 crits with a 2-handed weapon, it is going to give you a guaranteed Overpower on your core skill, which is of course Upheaval. You want max ranks into Upheaval. You can get this as high as 16, 17. Mine's only at 10 right now. And you want to take Furious Upheaval. Now, the idea is you're bashing and you hit 6 times. Hopefully 4 of those times are crit. And then when you go to use Upheaval, it is going to be a guaranteed Overpower with a 72% multiplicative hit from Furious Upheaval. And if that crits, instead of getting the blue number, you get the orange number. And that's where you see these absolutely massive damage numbers. Again, in its current form, I've seen it hit for 28 million. Moving down, this is a triple shout. So we're taking Rallying Cry, Challenging Shout, and War Cry. And Challenging Shout, you now actually want to take Enhanced Challenging Shout, which is going to give you a big boost to your maximum life. Since Fortify generation is now based on the maximum, not the minimum, this is now worthwhile taking. We are also taking extra damage reduction against elites. We are boosting our shouts, and we are boosting our berserk. Moving down, we are taking 3 into Pit Fighter and 3 into No Mercy. Now, No Mercy is going to give you a critical strike increase, which is awesome when you are trying to guarantee these huge overpowers. And the way you are getting this is through Hamstring, which is going to slow enemies that are healthy. And then in Upheaval, it has a 20% stun chance. And again, in Bash, you have a stun chance. So you have 3 different ways to cause enemies to be slowed or stunned. Hopefully that's enough to make sure no mercy goes off all the time, which it seems to be. We're taking extra damage reduction, or we're taking extra fortify with counteroffensive and defensive stance. For our ultimate, we're taking Iron Maelstrom, but you only need 2 points into this, and I'll explain in a second. We are always using two-handed, so heavy-handed, wallop, and brute force are needed, and we took unconstrained. Now, I have tested so many times. If you want the massive damage numbers, talking 50, 100 million, you could pull out Iron Maelstrom, you can go Wrath of the Berserker, and you can go Unbridled Rage. So if all you care about is just massive damage, you can go that route, okay? I've tested this over and over and over and over again, and simply from a smoothness, being able to attack when you want and not have to run around to regroup and do things like that, this is the best way. But if you're one of those people that love huge damage numbers, you can take Wrath of the Berserker and you could take Unbridled Rage. That is your choice. Now, for weapons selection. Okay, I get this question all the time. For Bash, you want to make it bludgeoning. For Upheaval, you want to make it bludgeoning. And for Iron Maelstrom, you want to make it bludgeoning. So I have tried over and over again to try and figure this out to make it weapon swap. You don't want to do it. Don't use weapon swap. Just keep them all the same. And that is why for our abilities, since you are no longer swapping weapons, you don't have to use Iron Maelstrom. So just leave it with only 2 points. Those are the skills. Moving over to the Paragon board. Now, this is normally where I pause and let you know that the 4,000 word written guide is over on Icy Veins. And if I ever tweak this, if I ever make a change to this, if I made a mistake, the written guide will always be fully up to date, where I'm not going to film a whole new video for moving a point here and there. So always check that out if you want to see what's new and exciting with Upheaval. Now, for the Paragon boards, just know that maximum life is really important for Overpower. So for the starter board, we are snagging all the life nodes, and the first glyph we are putting in is Territorial. Okay. Second board we are moving up to is Bone Breaker, and what we are using is Might. And as you can see, I took the Bone Breaker Legendary, because every 12 seconds, your next skill is guaranteed to overpower. But just keep in mind, this says skill, not core skill. So you could also bash and get an overpower. Okay. Next, but not least, we are on to Blood Rage. And as you can see, we took Blood Rage in here. This is going to give us a 36% multiplicative damage increase to our Berserking. And on here, we are using Crusher. While wielding a mace, you deal 30% multiplicative increased overpower damage. That's why we like maces. Okay, moving over to board number 4. This is Carnage. And on here, we are boosting our shouts with Martial. Coming up to our 5th board, and this is Decimator. And we are using Ire. Now you want to use Ire, one for the damage reduction, but also the berserking damage, because again, we are taking Blood Rage. It helps boost that multiplicative damage. And last but not least, we are in Warbringer. I haven't finished this board yet because I'm not level 100, but we are still using Exploit. Now, when I get my next 4 levels, this is how it's going to be. Pay attention, it's really easy. 2 points to the right, and then come straight down and grab these Dex nodes. Actually, probably come straight down first and grab these Dex nodes. That will unlock the bonus for Exploit. Then take those 2. That's all we're putting in there, okay? Then come straight up and snag Core Reserve for maximum life. And that is the Paragon boards. Moving over to our weapon expertise for Barbarian, and nothing has really changed. You still want two-handed axe expertise, so you get the boost to crit and you get the 15% multiplicative damage, and you will be making enemies vulnerable all the time from Exploit and from your new vampiric powers. Moving over to said vampiric powers, you want Ravenous, which is my favorite, gives you a huge boost to attack speed. You want Sanguine, keeps you alive. This gives you Fortify. You want Prey on the Weak, which is going to give you vulnerable damage, but also your enemies are vulnerable while they're infected with Vampiric Curse, which works perfectly with a Curse Touch, which is going to put Vampiric Curse on all those enemies. And the last one, Hebo, is going to give you a big damage output. Moving over to everyone's favorite, which is, of course, uniques, legendary aspects, and gems, starting off with gems. Now, we are an Overpower build, so you want to use rubies for your armor. Max life supports Overpower and keeps you alive, so you want to use rubies. And then for your jewelry, just put in whatever resistances you need or diamonds to all resistances. When it comes to uniques, there's nothing required for this build. There is nothing where the build doesn't work if you don't have this. That being said, there is best in slot. For your mace, you do want a Hellhammer, which has been buffed now twice and is in a really good spot. And for your amulet, you want the Banished Lord's Talisman, which is every 300 primary resource you spend, you're going to get a guaranteed overpower. And if that crits, which is the orange number, you're going to get up to 120% multiplicative hit, which is just insane. That's where we're getting these huge numbers. Now, what I'm going to do is go through each legendary aspect one by one so you could take a look. Helm, armor increase. Body armor, damage reduction to bleeding. Gloves, basically gives us our bleeding. Pants, damage reduction from basics. Boots, we are going to be extending Berserker. Ring and Ring, these are our double shouts. Shout cooldown. And Fury while Shout is active. For our weapons, showed you the Hellhammer. We're using Limitless Rage, which is each point of fury you generate while at maximum increases your core. We're using Edge Master, increased based upon your primary resource. You will get a big hit. And Upheaval costs a lot, so this is going to be up a lot of the time. And then the last one we're using is Aspect of the Expectant, which is basic skills will boost your core skills. And again, we're using Bash all the time to build up those overpowers. So that is what you want. All right. Scrolling down a little bit, we are now moving into affixes and what I recommend when it comes to gear stats. And a lot of these you will definitely notice a trend. For Helm, cooldown reduction, basic skill attack, speed, strength, and life. Chest, you want damage reduction, max life, total armor. Gloves, as much crit chance as you can get. You need that crit chance for those big overpowers. Crit chance ranks to Upheaval, attack speed, lucky hit. Pants, damage reduction, damage reduction, damage reduction, and life. Boots, movement speed, damage reduction, berserking duration, and strength. Amulet, movement speed, wallop, damage reduction, and damage reduction while injured. For our rings, crit chance, lucky hit chance, overpower damage, and resource generation. And then for your weapons, they are all the same. Strength, core skill damage, overpower damage, critical strike damage. All right, everyone, that's the build guide. What do you think of my new refreshed Upheaval? Is there something I missed? Is there something I could do to take this to the next level? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, 2 asks at the end. I appreciate it if you made it this far. Ask number 1, I'm hoping today is the day I have earned your subscription. I'm hoping today is the day you make the decision to push that little red button. I would really appreciate it, but of course, only if you think I've earned it. Ask number 2, check out my Patreon. Thank you to the first 89 members that have signed up. Become an instant ARPG VIP and get Patreon exclusive content at the first link in the description. I get asked all the time, Aaron, what's the best way to support? And this is it. I am done. 19 builds I need to update for D4 Season 2 on Icy Veins. 1 is done. Have a good day. Hopefully you're entertained or at least learned something. Aaron, out.